Hey guys, this is Walden Light from Walden Light Baseball on Instagram and the founder of Build Baseball. This is a second episode of Building a Foundation, which is a mindset series that I'm going to do for the Build Baseball YouTube channel, in which I discuss the components of a successful mindset and the experience that I've had with building a better mindset for myself over the past few years and that I continue to develop today. So last episode we talked about establishing values, and now in this episode we're going to talk about establishing goals. And like I said last time, there's no particular order in these videos in the series, really. It's not like one is prioritized above the other. I'm just going through it in terms of what is predominantly running through my brain throughout the day, and what helps me more. Not necessarily that it's more important. They're all important aspects of having a successful mindset. But yeah, I just want to start off with that. Also, I would like to mention that all components of the mental foundation, which I lay out here, are interrelated. So, I'll get into this a little bit in a minute, but establishing goals is ultimately dependent on the values that you have, and I will cover that a little bit more in a minute here. So, let's start off. Why establish goals at all? Well, really, in my personal experience, when I've established goals, it has provided me purpose every single day. Obviously, I don't want to get into all like the positive mental hooey, although necessarily positive emotions and feelings are not bad. They obviously are helpful. I would like to talk about that's not the only reason for goals. It doesn't just provide a positivity in certain aspects of emotion like that. So it's not just an emotional thing, but I also kind of want to get into that a little bit. So why establish goals? It just provides purpose. It does provide positive emotions, like I mentioned. It leads to success in the first place. You need to clarify what you want to do in order to actually do it and work towards doing it and accomplishing what you want to accomplish, and that's obvious. It also contributes to a complete successful life, which is a concept we talked about in the last video about establishing values. So really just having goals provides that purpose every day. You have direction in your life, and your goals should be based on something that you want to do with your life. And I'll get into this a little bit more with long-term goals, but it should be something that your whole life you want to work towards because you love it. And although not necessarily needs to be your entire life, it could be just 10 years down the road or something like that, something that you're actually committed to, and that will actually make a great change in life and build towards that successful life and that complete successful life we talked about in the last episode. Another reason to establish goals is it really just assists in the embodiment of your values. And like I talked about, your values are just the person that you want to be and the person you are when you're your most successful self. And so if you want to be successful in all areas of your life, you want to embody your values, and goals can assist in that, like I said, by providing those positive emotions, but not just that, also providing direction or purpose. So that is why I think you should establish goals. In my personal experience, I have experienced all of those establishing goals. I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I obviously am not. I'm not necessarily a role model for players out there. I'm just taking you guys through the process that I've experienced so far and that I will continue to experience for many years to come. So I'm not saying that I know everything. I'm just expressing my opinion on what I've learned by studying mindset and things of that nature. So really, goals are just what you want to do with a certain amount of time in your life. What you want to achieve before whatever time period, really. And it's what you want to spend your life doing and what you want to accomplish one day. Those are what the goals are pretty much for. And I'll get into that a little bit more too. SMART goals, if you've heard of this before, it's an acronym that gives guidance about how to set up goals, and I'm going to express my opinion on a few of the words in that acronym. So starting off with S for SMART, it stands for specific, and I do agree that goals should be specific as possible. Actually, the more specific that you make your goals, the easier it is to visualize yourself accomplishing them, which increases your chances of accomplishing that goal. So if you have more detail about it, then it will also help you lay out that plan better, which we'll get into over here. Then M, measurable. That is definitely a important aspect of setting up a goal. Just having it measurable, having a quantifiable amount of whatever to accomplish by a certain time. What a lot of people do as a mistake for when they're setting goals is to say, I want to be a better baseball player, but that's not measurable because you could get 1% better or you could get 50% better. It really doesn't provide a specific amount of change. It doesn't really guide change in that way because you are not specifically laying out what you want to accomplish here. A, attainable. I do believe the goals should be attainable, but within the time period that they are supposed to be accomplished. You obviously wouldn't want to set a goal really hard to obtain and accomplish within a few weeks, really, because that's just going to provide constant frustration with the process, and it won't be a sustainable lifestyle compared to if you just set a really large goal down the road and then broke it into smaller goals along the way so that you know you're working towards that bigger goal. So I do agree to an extent that goals should be attainable, but on the flip side of the coin, I believe that if you really want something out of your life, it's achievable so long as you put it within a reasonable timeline. Playing professionally is a goal for me, but it's put so far down the road. I'm not saying I want to play professionally right after high school. I want to go to college, and that's attainable for me to do, so long as I work as hard as I can and I take advantage of the right opportunities and things of that nature. But really, it's attainable because I give myself the time to actually accomplish that and build up towards that, as opposed to just trying to overwhelm myself and do something outside of my control and outside of my environment and accomplish something that I'm not capable of within a certain amount of time. You just wouldn't want to do that because it would frustrate you. R for relevance. I do believe relevance is an important aspect of setting up goals. However, I do believe that using relevant as a term when setting up your goals implies that there's going to be goals that you set for different aspects of your life that don't have to do with the others, if you know what I'm saying. It's like creating separation in your life. It says relevance. So when you hear relevance, you think relevance to a certain task, really. So if you want to set a goal relevant to baseball, it wouldn't really apply that much to your professional success if you were just thinking about baseball in terms of just that aspect of your life alone. So I don't think relevance really needs to be included, because the purpose of goals is to help you build towards that complete life that you have. If you have a goal for baseball and being successful in baseball, then that helps you achieve a financial goal, that helps you achieve a professional goal, and maybe even personal in some ways, because you would meet new people and build relationships and things of that nature. So that's why I don't think that relevance is necessary to actually mention when talking about goals. And then T, time-bound. I did talk a little bit about this. Goals do need to be time-bound because it actually provides urgency for you to get stuff done and help you. It will encourage you to do things on a daily basis to one day accomplish those goals. So it just provides urgency to actually make you do something instead of just thinking, oh, I have a lot of time to accomplish that goal. I don't need to do anything today. which a lot of people do. When making their goals, they'll have a good, even if they have a good quantifiable goal laid out, they won't have it in a certain timeline, so it wouldn't provide any urgency there. So that's just my opinion on the SMART acronym of setting up goals. If you've ever heard that before, there's just some of my ideas on that. Moving on. When setting up goals, there are two types of goals you want to set up: long-term and short-term. Long-term goals I set up for myself are based in high school, college, and my professional / life. So for high school, most of my goals are to lift a certain amount of weight and certain types of exercises by the end of high school, or to be able to run a certain speed on a 60-yard dash by the end of high school, and also just outside my athletic goals, like having a certain ranking by the end of high school, stuff like that. College, it was other things that had to do with ranking with just accomplishments during my college career, and then my professional life. And this really just lays out that future for me, so I have guidance every day, that purpose like we talked about, and just you can kind of, it's just a really broad, big thing to think about. It's hard to think about today what you might be 10 years from now, but it provides that direction and everything. So that's the purpose of setting up long-term goals. It guides everything in your life, and although it seems like it's so far away, it can be attainable by doing what we're about to talk about, is short-term goals. You break down those long-term goals into short-term attainable goals, which could be accomplished within a short period of time. So usually what I do is I do it either by the season or the month. It really just depends on what's going on in my life. I provide a lot of flexibility with my short-term goals compared to my long-term goals. I like to set more specific time increments for accomplishing those goals, because it's just down the road and it doesn't change on the day-to-day basis, and it shouldn't if it's a long-term goal, because it provides that purpose every single day. So the short-term goals, they're just a little bit short. They're like a little bit more flexible. So I'll have like, during some of my fall, spring, summer seasons, I will have season goals about what I want to accomplish on the field, and also just in terms of improvement, things like that. If it were the off season, say, I might just have goals for the off season, but I might have goals every month to help me accomplish those season goals. So just breaking it up in a way that fits your schedule and that helps you accomplish those. And then breaking down, you could break down the short-term goals into daily tasks that you can do. For a while, one of my coaches I talked to about this told this idea to me, really helped me a lot over the off season. His name is Cam Barga. He owns Altitude Baseball Facility in Frederick, Colorado, here in Colorado, in Frederick. So I will actually leave his Instagram in the description below. He talked to me about having a list of non-negotiables on your mirror so you see them every single day. A lot of these things I will talk about in the Building a Foundation series, I do have written on paper and hung on my wall, so I do wake up and I can see them all around my room when I wake up in the morning. But like this, the non-negotiable list, he calls it the non-negotiables, the list of things that you should do every day to accomplish your goals. And so every single day for about a month, I would do 7 different non-negotiables. Hitting, throwing, fielding, recovery, band routines. I was focusing more on the throwing aspect just to improve my arm strength and everything at the time. Training, unless it was an off day, and embodying my values, which I want to do every single day. Training / sprints was the 6th one. So when I followed that and I woke up every day with the purpose of doing those 7 different things, eventually it became habits. So now it's just second nature to me to get that done no matter what it was. I did have those habits beforehand, but not to the extent that I was doing them at. I didn't necessarily hit and throw and field every single day, but then that became a habit for me by the end of after that month, because just became a habit. And then also you want to make sure that there's progress tracking with your short-term goals, like it is quantifiable as well. Your short-term goals should also be measurable and be a certain number and time bound, just like these, like what we talked about up here. Really just, you should be able to know if you made progress or not. Now, three more notes. Like I said, I have it written on paper. It's so in my room, hung up, so I can see it every single day. And every single morning I review my goals, and it just maintains that connection to my goals. I don't think that it's more important to review your goals than to actually do something to work towards those goals. So if you had to, if it interfered with your sleep schedule to wake up earlier to review your goals because on a certain day because you had practice in the morning, then it makes more sense to go to practice to work towards those goals than to review them. But if you have the time, then review your goals. It's going to establish that connection. It's going to make them more sewn into the fabric of your brain so that you can, on a daily basis, just make every decision in service of those goals. Also, discipline. I talked to my coach Cam Varga about this too. He told me, it really clicked with me when he said this. He said, work off of discipline, not motivation. That really resonated with me because when you think about motivation, that's kind of what I talked about before, but motivation and positive emotions, although they're nice at the time, they're gonna fluctuate unless you work off your discipline and just do what you need to do in terms of your behavior to actually achieve those. We talked a little bit about this in the last episode with the rationality and that concept of being rational to know what to do and then just do it. Nike. So discipline, just work off of discipline instead of motivation, because motivation fades and discipline stays. So just to keep yourself on course, you want to use your rationality, your discipline, your knowledgeable side of your brain, not necessarily your emotional side of your brain, to keep you on track. And then the last note I want to talk about for goals is you want to base your goals off your values. So you would want to prioritize your family if being kind to your family, which it probably is for a lot of people, to be kind to your family members and your friends is a high priority. So you would want to make sure that your goals aren't in violation of that. So that's all I have to say about establishing goals. Hopefully you guys come back next time on the next episode in which we talk about establishing what not to do, or the no list is what I call it, and our next episode of building a foundation.